Hey all, here are OS Reviews. You're watching our hands-on review of the VIVIBRIGHT L1. This is a mini portable projector that sells for around 70 bucks, and because it's really low cost, it's also aimed at kids, more meant as a novelty item than a really home entertainment unit. And that's simply because it doesn't have the highest native resolution in the world, as the price kind of suggests. It's a little under 480p, so we're not talking about the sharpest image in the world, but for a budget unit, it does alright. Again, similar to other Pico projectors we've seen, it comes in two variants, a yellow version and a black version. Has kind of a retro throwback look to it. It reminds me a bit of a small TV. So there's a quick user manual that also has a warranty card inside. We also have access to the remote control that takes two AAA batteries to operate. And there's also the AC charger. Finally, we've got just the L1 mini projector itself. Again, we have the black edition currently. We have a mainly polycarbonate plastic build, but it still feels relatively solid. Ventilation grills to prevent it from overheating. There are built-in stereo speakers, by the way, which is pretty impressive, so you don't have to necessarily connect it to a separate speaker source. There is a tripod mount on the back, so you can mount it and pop it up at an angle. We have the front, which is just the IR adapter for receiving the remote, and then the lens itself, which we actually use the scroll dial to change the focus physically. Then on the very top, there's a simple power on-off key, and then on the rear we have all the I/O, including a micro SD card slot and a USB slot that you can use to plug in media content directly and it will play it back. There's also the aforementioned full HDMI port, standard 3.5mm headphone jack to connect to exterior speakers. Here it is next to some of the other mini projectors that we've checked out over the past year or two. These have been pretty popular, the YG series. Performance isn't going to be quite as good as some of the smart Pico projectors we've seen. For example, this one by Artly is a Pico unit, so you can see that the lens is a lot smaller. Overall, again, the size is going to be a little bit larger than those two, but still not too bad, and is relatively easy to put into a backpack for transportation. And here it is next to a smartphone, so you can see that still is relatively compact and small in terms of overall dimensions. The interface here is quite familiar. We've seen it many times before, but we can use the remote to toggle back and forth and read files from the SD card or the thumb drive that you may have plugged in, taking a look at photos directly, music directly, or videos. By default, it seems to be by a 4:3 aspect ratio, although through the settings you are able to change the aspect ratio to 16:9 or a more traditional widescreen, which is better, I think, for watching video clips for. Overall image in terms of the objects are definitely clear enough, and shapes, things like that. Colors are decent, but it's not going to be crystal clear. So if we do zoom all the way in, we can definitely make out some pixelation and kind of fine details. Again, right now we are roughly 50 inches diagonal, so if you stretch it even more to say 70 or 80 inches, it becomes less impressive and has less pixels per inch. Now, settings are pretty basic, but we are able to do things like quickly go through and change things like the language. We can also change the picture mode, so there is the ability for you to go into a soft mode, a user-defined mode. You can change the contrast, brightness, tint. You can also change the color temperature. There's even a surround sound mode. You can actually flip the image to rotate it. There is no keystone correction, however, under settings. So to do that, you have to tilt it directly using the projector. So as a quick demo connected to a computer, you can see that for web pages, indeed, it's not going to be the best because text is going to be quite pixelated, which is why, again, it's not recommended for things like business presentations and PowerPoints, things where there's a lot of kind of fine details. You do have to zoom quite in order to make out these details. However, colors for the most part are still relatively vibrant and look pretty good for a low-cost projector. What it does shine in, though, is the ability to play back video clips, so you can see it's going to be a lot more enjoyable here without focusing on small text details. It actually does a pretty decent job. Still not going to be, again, the extremely crisp details that you may be used to on a more expensive unit, but for an inexpensive portable projector, it does alright. This is the sound quality coming out from the speakers directly. Which indeed do get fairly loud if we raise it all the way up. So no issues at all in terms of using it to watch some quick clips and still find enjoyment. Definitely a step up compared to the YG mini projectors that we saw before, which were also really cheap. Those had not very good quality speakers at all. Of course, you are able to still connect it to, say, a gaming console, or on your computer you can use it as a small monitor for some light gaming, but it's not going to be extremely ideal because, again, fine text details are still going to be a little hard to make out, but overall still decent enough for making out the rough image. If you just do some casual gaming with it, it is a fair experience. So that's more or less it for our hands-on review of the VIVIBRIGHT L1. Again, this is more of a novelty projector. Although the performance is still not going to be quite as good as a true Pico projector, at the same time, again, this is still cheaper, and it does also offer slightly better quality than some past units we've seen with the traditional bulb for LED LCD units. So all in all, not bad for what it is, looks pretty cute, and is also quite easy to connect to other HDMI devices like a laptop to very quickly share some clips and watch some videos. So you can check out more details if interested in the links down below. But for now, that's been our video. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.